chose to walk away from my marriage after he repeatedly devoured all our food, blamed me for grocery costs, and even thwarted my efforts to manage our meals. What would you do if the person you loved most was slowly starving you, not with cruelty, but with an insatiable hunger that turned every meal into a war zone? 4 years, I lived that nightmare, constantly fighting my own husband over every bite, every grocery trip, until I realized I wasn't just losing food, I was losing myself. Our food issues started early, long before we ever met in person. He knew I was struggling financially, so he paid for our food. Sweet, right? Except every time he got stressed, the complaints would start. Grocery costs are insane, he'd grumble, staring daggers at me. More than once he flat out blamed me. I'd apologize, offer to pay him back, but he'd wave it off, saying he was just stressed. It won't happen again, he'd promise. But it always did. I still remember this one time at the dollar store. He told me to pick out a few snacks. I grabbed maybe 3 or 4 things, small stuff. He looked at my basket, then his already overflowing. Can't afford that much, put some back. As he made me put my things back, he kept grabbing more for himself, twice what I had. Eventually, I just put everything back. He got mad, saying he never wanted to make me feel like a burden. The irony was suffocating. I felt like a burden. Then, suddenly, I was ungrateful. He even said he thought I had more money than I did. Desperate, I once spent money that was strictly off limits, hundreds on food for both of us. We both struggled with eating disorders, so I hoped it would help. He barely acknowledged it, just acted like it was binge food I would have bought for myself anyway. It felt like a punch to the gut. He asked me to move to the UK with him, promised he'd support me. But he treated the whole thing like it was a colossal burden. I wanted to walk to a shop for a Coke one day and he complained. Then the cycle started again, blaming me for food costs even though we were contributing equally. We'd order takeout 50-50, but he'd still insist most of the cost was mine. One day I just couldn't take it anymore. I tried to leave. Go then, he sneered, if things are so bad. Only then did he apologize, admit we both contributed. But it was fleeting. The blaming continued, especially if food went bad or the fridge died. It was always my fault. Eventually I started buying my own food when I had money. If I stressed about it, he'd guilt-trip me about what he'd spent in the past, or just act annoyed or indifferent. You never cared when I was stressed about money, he'd say. Once I tried buying a single tray of mince for 2 dishes he wanted to make. He exploded, yelling and cursing, bringing up some past disagreement I barely remembered. When I bought my own food, specifically trying to make it last, which, given my eating disorder, wasn't hard, he'd eat it before I had a chance. I'll replace it, he'd promise. He never did. He'd just eat that too. I remember arguing over popcorn, my safe food, hard to find. I offered him 2 bags, he demanded 3. Sometimes he wouldn't replace anything. I asked for some of his mom's biscuits once. He snapped, only a few left. It would be disrespectful. I pointed out how he always ate my food, never replaced it. That's different, he insisted. Soon I was spending way more on food than him, though he vehemently denied it. Every grocery trip, he'd blame me for the expense, saying he didn't need to go. But he never stopped piling his stuff into the cart. At checkout, the same complaints: can't afford it. Most of this is your food. Binge food, you pay. I'd pay and he'd devour it all. If something was meant to be shared, he'd finish it. If I asked him to pay for a replacement, he'd refuse. There was a whole week I bought several boxes of Snickers ice cream bars, just hoping to enjoy 1 or 2 myself. Each time I checked, most were gone. I can't help myself, he'd say. I'm a man. I eat more. Someone finally gave me an idea. Tell him if you pay for it, he can't touch it. I tried it. He immediately backpedaled after demanding I pay him back, of course. Our trips to America were a financial nightmare. Before one, we sold things for spending money for both of us. He told me not to touch my own money if I could help it. Then, at the airport, he made me pay for my own food while he used the joint savings. On the first day in America, he complained all the money was gone. He was the one spending it. When I asked him to buy a fan we'd discussed, he said it would wipe the savings and told me to pay. It's our money, I protested. Annoyed, he stormed off but eventually bought it. The next trip, he demanded I pay for all my food or reimburse half. He couldn't afford both of us, he claimed. I paid for weeks of the rental car. When I reminded him it was his turn for the 4th week, he wanted me to cover it again. When I refused, he threatened he'd run out of money. His solution? Ask his grandmother, even though he'd always said he couldn't. He never did, of course. Months later, when I brought it up, he told me to just let it go. The last time we went to America, I paid for virtually all my food. Every grocery trip, he expected me to pay for everything. If I protested, he'd whine that he couldn't help, then claim since I put most of the food in the cart I should pay. He'd still eat it though, carefully avoiding picking his own things so he wouldn't have to pay. Now that I'm low on money, I help as much as I can and he pays for a lot. But I can't shake the past. It's agonizing sharing food with him. He grew up in a household where eating fast was survival. Food vanished if you weren't quick. Now, as adults, he repeats those habits and it's driving me insane. He devours everything in hours: cookies, chocolate, pastries. It doesn't matter if we agree to split it or make it last. Just last week we bought cookies, chocolate, popcorn. Supposed to be shared. He ate most of it himself. Yesterday we each picked a pastry. He grabbed croissants, I got a fruit Danish. I thought I was so smart, telling myself I'd make mine last. I even said it aloud. He jumped in, let's have both. We can try each other's. Later he offered me a croissant. I was content with a bite so I declined. He ate both of his. I offered to share my Danish but he refused, telling me to save it. Of course, a couple of hours later he was back, pestering me for my Danish. I said no repeatedly. He wouldn't stop. He tried to guilt-trip me. I've been paying for our food for weeks. As if that entitled him to override my decision. Then he begged, I'm starving. I promise I'll replace it. I'd heard that 100 times. The next day when I'd ask for the promised replacement, he'd claim he didn't like it, push for something else. The effort to actually restore what he took was never there. It was always my loss. He actually took the Danish out of the fridge twice, about to eat it after I told him no. He even tried to bribe me with chores. I'll change the hamster's water if you let me have it, he said. I snapped, insulting him. Suddenly he was the victim, I was too intense. He claimed he didn't see anything wrong because I'd said he could have one when we'd planned to share before he ate both of his. It's not my fault you didn't want one when I offered, he argued. He kept repeating he'd replace the pastries as if his broken promises meant anything. When things got heated, he declared he didn't even want the Danish because of the argument. Only after I reluctantly caved, fine, take it if you'll actually replace it, did he refuse out of principle. He tried to brush it off. I was just joking. I thought you were joking. Meanwhile I was fuming. I reminded him I was trying to save money, and actual sharing would help our budget. He had the nerve to blame me for not budgeting, while he was spending 15 to 20 pounds a day on food and burning through snacks that should last days, all in a single night. After that stupid Danish standoff, I told him I was done with the it's all shared roulette. Separate shelves, a whiteboard. He put on a whole show of agreeing, it'll be fun. We'll see who's really bad at budgeting. We went to the store with 2 baskets. He bought what he wanted, I bought what I wanted, we split shared basics. At checkout, he kept sliding things from his basket into mine, narrating it like generosity. This is for both of us. Doesn't make sense to split it. Usually a multi-pack of crisps he liked. When I pushed his stuff back, he rolled his eyes and told the cashier, she's being weird about numbers today. At home he wrote shared bread/milk/cleaning on the whiteboard, then added biscuits and chocolate to the shared column like annotating scripture. That night he ate almost the entire shared section, then crossed them off the board with a smiley face. So I bought a small clear plastic lockable bin. Nothing dramatic. Put my safe foods in there with a sticky note. Medical. Please don't. He laughed. You put a tiny jail in the fridge. He asked for the code. You don't need it, I said. The next afternoon the bin was gone. I found it in the sink, a hairline cracked down one side, a butter knife beside it. He acted surprised. I thought it was ours. You made it weird. He swore he'd replace everything. 3 days later he came back with a giant bag of off-brand kettle corn. They didn't have your kind. My safe popcorn is a specific kernel size because of my stomach. Thanks. I tried to make it easier. I bulk cooked, portioned meals, labeled containers with dates. If it had a date, it was me trying to ensure I actually ate something. 2 days later I came home to a warm fridge, the containers sweating. He'd unplugged it to run his PC tower and a space heater under the desk because the breaker kept tripping. My game crashed twice, he said. When I told him everything was warm and unsafe, he scoffed. Food doesn't go bad that fast. Maybe stop being dramatic. He ate one of my prepped meals cold to prove it. He was sick that night and blamed my cheap mints. Last week my blood work came back miserable. The nurse said to take my iron with yogurt or a small snack. I told him I was leaving 2 yogurts for that exact reason and wrote iron across the lid in Sharpie. He ate them both after midnight. In the morning I asked where they were. He shrugged, thought the Sharpie was you being silly. I spent the day shaky. He handed me a can of his energy drink like he was doing me a favor, then complained I took it because now he'd have to replace it. We had dinner at his mom's. I watched him load his plate like an armory, 4 rolls, half the potatoes, a mountain of meat. I went to the bathroom, came back, and half my plate was gone. He hadn't realized it wasn't his. His mom just sighed, "He eats fast, always has," and handed him another roll while I stood there with my fork. In the car, he told me I'd embarrassed him by making a face. "You make food moral," he accused, "like I'm a villain for being hungry." I thought an outside voice would snap him out of it. We saw a counselor. He told her about his childhood, about food disappearing if you blinked, hiding snacks in his pillowcase. He cried. I cried too because I get it. But the counselor didn't blink. "Trauma," she said softly, "doesn't excuse stealing your partner's lunch." She suggested a red dot system. Anything with a red sticker was non-negotiable, off-limits. He nodded. He agreed. We stopped for stickers on the way home. That first night, 4 red-dotted items vanished. "Stickers make it childish," he complained. "I don't want to feel like a guest in my own kitchen." He held a sticker between his fingers. "This is glue. It doesn't mean anything." I started keeping receipts, sticking them to the whiteboard so he'd stop insisting I spent nothing and he spent everything. He got mad at the visual evidence, pulled them down. "Paper clutter makes me anxious." He said I was controlling the narrative. So I printed our bank statements. "Statements don't reflect context," he countered. Later, I found wrappers stuffed into the backseat pocket of his car. Snickers ice cream multi-packs. "Old," he said. "From months ago." Even though the bin had been out last week. He told me if I stopped buying binge foods, he wouldn't be tempted, as if that wasn't exactly what he insisted on putting in the cart. I tried cameras. Not a full surveillance system, just a cheap kitchen cam. I told him about it, put it high up, angled at the pantry. I was tired of hearing I'd forgotten. I ate something. The footage was boring then bizarre. He'd get up at 2 a.m., stand with the fridge open, eating slices of cheese like a deck of cards, then half a tub of hummus with a spoon, then my marked yogurt. When I showed him, he claimed he didn't remember. Maybe I was sleeping, maybe it was stress, maybe the camera caught weird angles. He accused me of spying, announced he wasn't living under surveillance. He unplugged it. He guilted me until I took it down. "You made your point," he said, which I guess was that reality is inconvenient. The next day he proposed a solution, like he'd invented sliced bread. Separate bank cards for groceries. "I pay for me, you pay for you. Shared is exactly half." No arguments. I said yes gladly. It lasted one shop. He walked beside me empty-handed. "I don't need anything." Then at home he ate my stuff. When I reminded him, he said, "It's insane to expect me to ignore food in my own home. You don't understand how hungry I get." I pointed out he'd eaten an entire pizza before we even put the bags away. "I needed calories," he said. "I skipped breakfast to save money. My mom sent me a grocery gift card. Sweet surprise so you can get things you like." I put it in my bag, planning a small haul. He took my bag to look for gum. The card went missing. I found it later, empty, crumpled in our bin, torn in half like a spent lottery ticket. He'd ordered takeout and a game top-up, accidentally, using it because it was in his Apple Wallet. When I got upset, he said my reaction proved I cared more about snacks than our relationship. And then there was the hamster. He'd been nagging me about its water bottle, the one he tried to barter chores over for my Danish. "You never refill it." "I always have to." I started taking time-stamped photos after I did it. He called me petty. Last night, the hamster's treat stash was gone. He'd used them as salty snack mix while gaming, calling them pumpkin seeds and nuts, as if that made it better. I handed him the empty bag. "They're literally food. We share food." I deadpanned. "He's 2 pounds and has no money." He laughed. "Something broke in me this morning. I ordered a tiny mini fridge for our bedroom with my own money and a lock for my side of the wardrobe. He told me if I brought a fridge into the bedroom he'd return it. We don't need duplicate appliances." I dragged it in anyway. He said I was making him feel unwelcome. "You've been making me feel hungry and crazy," I shot back. He stood in the doorway. "If you're going to behave like this, I'm going to stop buying shared things altogether. Bread, milk, eggs. Sort yourself out." An hour later he yelled. No milk for his tea. He went out in a huff, came back with 3 bags of corner shop junk and a massive fast food order. He dropped the receipt in my lap like evidence. "This is what you make me do." He ate half of it before even taking his coat off, then threw a mouthful of chips, said we needed to reset and stop keeping score. I opened the mini fridge. Put in 2 yogurts, my popcorn, the iron tablets. Locked it. He watched like I'd closed a vault in his face. Tonight he asked for a yogurt, promising to replace it tomorrow. No, I said. I'm starving, he whined. Eat one of the 5 things you just bought, I suggested. They don't look nice anymore. I asked him to pay me back for my mom's gift card. You need to stop accounting our love. I corrected him. I'm not accounting our love. I'm accounting missing food and missing money. He opened the wardrobe, tugged at the lock, and laughed without smiling. You really think you can keep food away from me? It wasn't a question. It was a challenge. Like I'd hung a steak just out of reach of a dog. I'm tired of feeling like prey in my own kitchen. I messaged the counselor, booked another session for just me. I moved my card to a new account. I put a red sticker on the inside of the bedroom door eye level. He'd look. It meant nothing to him. But it meant everything to me. I wasn't going hungry for someone who ate my Danish and called it a compromise. The day after I put up the sticker, I went to the counselor alone. I sat there and said it aloud like a police report. If he takes my marked food or unplugs the fridge, I'm leaving for 2 days and I'm not buying groceries. The counselor didn't blink. She asked what leaving would look like. My mom's, I said. The hamster in his carrier. My meds in my bag. No big speech. I felt stupidly calm on the bus home, like I'd rehearsed a fire drill and finally knew where the stairs were. I walked in. The bedroom was quiet. The mini fridge hummed, then it didn't. It was warm. The plug was out of the wall, tucked behind the skirting board. One of the yogurts was gone. The other was there but heavier. That made no sense until I opened it. Yogurt with a layer of water on top. He'd run the tap over it to make it look full. I could smell cold dairy in the sink. Little fingernail dents on the lock where he tried it, then gave up and went for the socket instead. He was at his PC, headset on, eating a wrap. Shredded lettuce falling onto the keyboard. When I stood in the doorway with the watered yogurt, he paused his game. That plug was buzzing. Unsafe. Didn't want a fire. I looked him dead in the eye. Boundary violated. I'm going to my mom's for 2 nights. He took his headset off. You're being theatrical. I put the hamster in his travel box, the little machine noise they make when they're confused. I packed a bag, iron, charger, the receipt folder he hated. He followed me to the landing. You're punishing me with absence. He scanned my hands for the mini fridge key. Leave the key then. I stayed at my mom's, ate a yogurt at 9 p.m. like a normal person, slept 9 hours. In the morning he texted a photo of an empty egg box. This is what happens when you weaponize food. 3 hours later, I locked the shared cupboard so we're even. He'd gone to B&Q, come home with a hasp and staple like a pirate, drilled it into the cheap MDF pantry cabinet. A tiny brass padlock like from a diary. A note taped over it, kitchen privacy. My mom just looked at it. That boy couldn't keep nails in straight. She made tea. When I woke from exhaustion, he texted a photo of himself, grinning next to the locked cupboard. Then a second photo. His boots in my mom's hallway. He came over. He brought a Tesco finest lasagna. I cooked, he said, which meant microwaved until the corners were hard. He put it on the table like an offering, then started playing host in someone else's house. He opened my mom's biscuit tin without asking, took 2. He went to her pantry like he always does. My mom watched him like he was a raccoon testing a bin latch. When he took down peanut butter and opened a drawer for a spoon, my mom said very quietly, "Put that back." He laughed, thinking she was joking. Then he saw her face. He put it back. He kept telling her he was trying to lose weight anyway, that I made food into a power struggle. She got the empty gift card sleeve from my bag, slid it across the table to him. He didn't touch it. I went home for clothes when he finally left. He'd actually locked the shared cupboard, taken the key to his mom's house with him. Like that would stop me. I unscrewed the hinges with a butter knife, took out my cereal like I was opening a safe deposit box. He walked in, saw the door in my hand. That's illegal. I put the door down. This cabinet costs £29.99 flat pack. The police aren't coming. He looked at the hole where the bread used to be. He went quiet in a way that was more dangerous than shouting. My second session. I told the counselor about the lock, the unplugging, the lasagna. She said the words coercive control into the room softly, like testing a new language. On the bus back, I thought about how expensive bread is, how cheap that lock was, and how the balance of those things in his head was upside down. I didn't sleep at the flat that night either. He called around midnight, asking if I could at least leave the bedroom door open so he could use his desk without feeling like a stranger. No, I said. He hung up. Then at 2 a.m. my phone buzzed. A photo from our neighbor's Ring camera. Him outside with 2 grocery delivery bags that weren't ours, peering into them like a cat. Then he set them down, took a picture of the label, then took one of the juices. "That's not his," she texted me. He'd said he'd replace it and went inside. I watched the video 3 times, felt a tiredness that started behind my eyes. He accused me of making the building hostile. If I keep involving other people, he'll be forced to go fully solo. A funny threat from someone who eats half my plate when I go to the bathroom. He announced a plan. Meal prep like on YouTube. 10 identical containers, our names written on them. He even wrote a menu on the whiteboard: Mon chicken rice. Wet salad, with a little leaf. He filmed himself opening the fridge. "We're doing this. She's on board." I stood out of frame. "I'm not on anything," I mumbled. He put his phone down. "You're sabotaging my recovery arc." By day 2, 5 containers left. He'd eaten 3 at 1 a.m. "Thought they were old ones because they were at the front," he said, chewing. "You should rotate stock properly if you don't want me to make mistakes." He pointed to the fridge like he was a dairy manager. Then the hamster went missing. Not gone. But the cage door was open, the chew tube off. I'm compulsive about that little latch. I found him behind the bookcase, a cluster of crumbs the size of his head. Someone had shaken out a bag of Doritos and he'd done what hamsters do, stuffed himself. His belly felt like a beanbag. He looked like a living stress ball. I cried so hard my face felt like it was melting. He came out of the shower, steam behind him. "You're overreacting about a rat," he said. "That's the kind of sentence you don't get to take back." I took the hamster to my mom's. Carted his whole cage to the car, drove like a hearse. I texted, "I'm not living with you while you make jokes about my pet and break locks." He replied, "You think locks will keep me out of my kitchen? Good luck." The thing that stuck wasn't the threat. It was the "my." Like he'd finally said the quiet part out loud. 3 days. That's how long it took him to go from, "I'm going to stop buying shared things," to texting me a receipt photo with a total of £34.16. Caption: "See what you made me do." It was a slush of corner shop prices, 2 £4.5 deals, and a £9.99 game top-up, tucked in the middle like a garnish. He said he felt sick after and it was my fault. I sent a thumbs-up emoji. No more words. He turned up at my mom's again with a screwdriver. "To fix the cupboard you vandalized." He tried to bring it into her kitchen like a tradesman on call. My mom told him to leave the tools at the door, and his attitude on the pavement. He looked genuinely confused, like a dog hearing a word it knows in a sentence it doesn't. He tried the fridge. She said no. He tried to make tea. She moved his hand off the kettle like it was a hot pan. I watched him not be in charge and it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. Like someone turned gravity sideways. He called me controlling in the car afterwards, said my mom had caught it from me. The last ridiculous straw wasn't even food. It was my bank app. Fraud alert for a pizza delivery, 3 a.m. to our address, attempted on an old card. Declined. He texted half an hour later. "Bank is being weird. We're starving." He sent a photo, 2 empty pizza boxes on the table. We weren't starving. He just pivoted to the next thing, hoped I'd trip. When I didn't, he said I'd pushed him into a corner, and he was acting out. He's 30. I collected my passport, my medical folder, the framed photo of my dad and me, the laminated sheet with the hamster vet's number. I took the mini fridge. I left him the lock he bought and the cupboard door on the floor. He followed me down the stairs, mouth open, like he was going to say something nuclear but couldn't find the match. "You'll miss me when you need milk," he said like it was romance. "I can buy my own milk," I replied. He laughed without sound again. "You can't budget." I looked at the bag in his hand, a bag for life, blooming with red and yellow logos, the receipt fluttering on top like a white flag. I ate a whole Danish in my mom's back garden this morning. The fruit was soft and cold, the pastry flaked onto my lap like leaves. The iron went down like a pill should when you do it right. I put a red sticker on my mom's fridge. It means nothing to him. It means I'm not going back to a kitchen where a butter knife is a lockpick and a yogurt is an argument. He texted me at lunch. He'd booked another counseling appointment for us. I told him I'd go if the first sentence out of his mouth was, "I stole my partner's food and I'm not going to do it again." He wrote back, "You can't script me." I replied, "I think that's the whole point." He showed up at my mom's 2 mornings later with a hamper. Not flowers and cellophane, but one of those fake wicker baskets from the seasonal aisle. Plastic handle, plastic wrap, a bow that had seen some things. "Peace offering," he said in his customer service voice. Inside, 3 jars of pasta sauce he doesn't like, a bag of couscous he definitely bought because it was £1, and the exact brand of yogurt I take with my iron warm because he kept it under his arm on the bus. He reached in like a magician, pulled out a Pringles lid. "Look," he said, holding it up. I thought he'd dug up a coin from my childhood. He'd written day 1 in Sharpie on it. His reset token. My mom looked at it like it had crawled out of a drain. He put the basket on the kitchen table, looked around for applause, for tea, for access. My mom's biscuit tin had new, squeaky hinges. He touched the lid. She said his name the way a teacher does when your hand is hovering over the class hamster. He texted me before lunch, a screenshot of my club card app. He'd somehow logged into my loyalty account, cashed out the points, £11.50 in vouchers, turned into 2 meal deals, a Red Bull and a tub of flapjacks. "I'll give you the points back," he wrote. I stared at the sentence for too long because that's not how points work. He used the animated confetti filter on the screenshot, like he'd won something. I wrote back, "You don't get to cash out anything that says my name on it." He replied, "It's household." I told my mom. "I didn't know you could steal a discount," she said, which made us both laugh. Then we didn't laugh at all. I went back to the flat with my mom for a proper pack-up. No speech. A cab booked on my phone, showing up in 20 minutes whether we finished or not. He'd done it. He'd screwed a keypad lock onto the kitchen door, onto the actual door frame, with the confidence usually reserved for surgery. It was stuck on crooked with foam tape. He'd written kitchen hours on a sheet protector, taped it at eye level, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. No exceptions. Exceptions in tiny handwriting below, milk tea emergencies. He was in the living room, headset on, the kitchen door half shut like a retail changing room. He looked up when I tried the handle. "See? Boundaries." Like he'd cured something. I went and got the butter knife from the hall sideboard. Popped the screws out of the hinges like I was rolling my wrist. The door came off in my hands with a sigh. I leaned it against the wall. He stood there, mouth open in a perfect "oh, this is sabotage." My mom said brightly, "We're starving. Might make a sandwich." He had a new whiteboard. The old one was still on the wall, "Mon chicken rice," ghosting through. The new one was bigger, wedged between the TV and thermostat, with a grid. Columns, inputs and outputs. Under inputs he'd written things like stress at work, you, no sleep, you leaving. Under outputs, binge, regret, anger. Underneath that, resolution. He'd put little ticks next to resolution like he'd earned them. He gestured at the board. "This is evidence." I said, "The wrappers are evidence." Because I'd started finding them. Behind the couch cushions, melted Snickers ice cream sticks, refrozen into a caramel mop handle. Under his monitor, my yogurt lids licked clean. In his PC tower, when I unplugged it to move the surge protector, 2 empty crisp packets folded like flags, shoved against the intake fan. I held them up. He laughed. I read about mice, then stopped because the sentence had nowhere safe to go. I wanted my dad's photo, my documents, my clothes. There were compromised battles I was willing to lose to speedrun this. I opened the tall pantry cabinet. The hasp was still there, but the padlock was gone. Inside, he built shelves for his new system, out of shoebox lids and sticky tape. Each shelf had a sticky note. SHE weird foods. He regular foods. Shared basic. My cereals were in shared, my tea under he, and a sticky note pinned to my granola that just said tax. There was a Pringles tube on the top shelf with red stickers all over it like chickenpox. He dumped coins into it. When he reached for it, it rattled like a child's piggy bank. "For milk," he said like a little boy being generous. I put the granola in my bag and the Pringles tube in my mom's hands because I didn't want to touch it. I called the non-emergency number. Not 999, the one where they send a PCSO to keep the peace while you take what is yours, because the word yours needs company in this context. The woman on the phone asked if I felt unsafe. "My kitchen door has a keypad," I said. "Right," she replied. He told me it was an overreaction, that I was bringing the state into our kitchen. I looked at the door, leaning against the wall with its cheap, screwed-on keypad and the sheet protector of rules, and thought, sure. 2 officers turned up. Neon vests, polite faces. Stood in the doorway while he talked at them about shared assets and tenancy rights. One asked, "Is there any property you dispute ownership of?" He said, "She thinks the milk is hers." The officer's face did something I will roll in my mouth like a sweet for the rest of my life. He said very gently, "We're not here about milk." His mom came in halfway through with a carrier bag, said hello to the officers as if she'd been waiting for this moment since he was 2. She took one look at the keypad, then at me, then at him. said his name the way she had in my mom's kitchen. She put the bag on the table, took out an old biscuit tin with a broken hinge and passed it to me. "Thought you'd want this," she said. Inside, Polaroids of him with missing front teeth and chocolate all over his cheeks, and one where he's about 7 with a pillowcase in the corner, swollen like he's stuffing it with laundry. Under the photos were receipts, ancient and curled, student union cafeteria, kebab vans. On a folded A4 sheet in his teenage handwriting, a list titled Food Storage Ideas, Wardrobe under Floorboards, Shed Ceiling. He looked mortified in a way I had never seen, bald and honest and 13 for a second. Then he put his persona back on like a hoodie, told her she was undermining him. She took his face in one hand. "Stop stealing from your girlfriend." For a minute, everything aligned. He cried. He cried like he did at the counselor, but this time it didn't feel like a performance. "I don't know when I am and when I'm hungry," he sobbed. And I believe that. But I still put the photo of my dad into my bag and the hamster spare wheel and my underwear because belief doesn't keep the fridge cold. The neighbor with the Ring doorbell knocked while the officers were there. Phone in one hand, carton of orange juice in the other. He'd taken it by accident at 2 a.m., left the empty carton in the stairwell like a note. He started to explain about how he'd been hypoglycemic. The officer wrote something in his notebook very slowly. "You can't take in the middle of the night and pay in the morning, sir," he said. I said I'd replace it. The officer replied, "That isn't how theft works." Hearing the word was like popping a blister. The neighbor, my mom, his mom, 2 bored police officers, and a man crying in front of a keypad he screwed on himself. I felt nothing, then a wave of heat, then nothing again. Like I was walking past a bakery. He sent me a PDF later. He drafted a food agreement. Clauses like, items unlabeled are considered communal unless explicitly declared otherwise in writing. Red stickers are not legally binding. Replacement will be like for like only within a 24-hour period. Beyond that, no replacement is considered due. He'd put a signature clause with 2 lines and a witness section, like he thought he could notarize his appetite. I didn't sign it. He said I wasn't engaging in good faith. I told him, faith isn't butter you can keep using when the knife is dirty. I posted the keys for the flat through the letting agent's mail slot, in an envelope with my name, a note about my deposit, and the damp patch above the kettle that looks like a map of Wales. He texted, "You don't have to be dramatic," while he was literally in a hoodie with Drama Club written across the front. Of course. He sent a photo later. His hand on the pantry lock again, palm open like a billboard, the little brass padlock glinting. "Resets are hard," he captioned it. He started a close friends story on Instagram. Him making overnight oats using my oats in my Tupperware, stirring with my spoon. He narrated into his front-facing camera about accountability and growth. I turned my phone over like a face-down fish. The counselor saw me alone. She used more words that made me feel like I'd been walking around with a mouthful of marbles and had finally been told to spit. Deprivation. Coercion. Sabotage. She asked me to write down what a normal Tuesday looked like at my mom's. I wrote, coffee, 2 slices of toast, yogurt with iron, a walk, a nap. No one unplugged anything. She asked me to write what a normal Tuesday looked like at the flat. I started to write, wake up, check the fridge light, and then I just drew a small rectangle and shaded it in over and over again. I realized I was drawing the keypad. She nodded. He booked a joint session, sent me the calendar invite like a meeting, title in all caps, Couples Repair. I replied, saying I'd go if he opened with the sentence I told him to say. He sent, I won't be scripted. Then a second message, fine. Which I didn't believe but put in my pocket anyway. He walked into the room with a Tupperware of pasta like a prop, set it on the table between us. Looked at the counselor, then me, then the pasta. I stole my partner's food. It sounded like he'd chewed gravel for it. He didn't say the second half. He looked at me, waited. The counselor prompted. He said, and I don't want to anymore. Then immediately followed it with, but. And that was the whole session. A long, loud, variously flavored, but. But money, but childhood, but I'm hungry. But she buys the good stuff. But I get dizzy. He couldn't find the part where an apology isn't a hinge to push a door back open. It's a full stop. The counselor said, you can have all the reasons in the world and still not take the yogurt with your girlfriend's name on it. His face went blank again like he was buffering. We need the whiteboard, he mumbled like we were going to set up merch. His grandmother called me. He'd asked her for £200 for joint groceries because I left. He told me you're not eating without him, she said, her voice tight with that fury that lives in old ladies with clean windows. I told her I had toast. She told me she'd been doing this since his mom went back to work evenings and he learned to say, "I'm starving," like a password. We were quiet together for a pause that lasted half a song. She said he was a sweet boy. And I said he is, because both things can be true and neither fixes a lock. The last thing that tipped from grotesque to funny and then back was the HelloFresh box. It arrived at my mom's with my name on it. I didn't order it. I didn't recognize the meals. He'd used my email and my old card to start a trial, sent it to me like a parable. He texted as the box hit the doorstep, "See? Solutions." He was on our street before we cut the packing tape. He started talking about portion control and shared cooking. My mom said, "She doesn't live with you." He said, "It's a box." Like that erased the part where he'd weaponized a subscription. He followed me into the kitchen, reached for the chicken. I stepped in front of him with a look I didn't know my face could make. "No." And he stopped. He genuinely stopped. He put his hands up like I'd drawn a red dot on the air. Then he looked down at the recipes and laughed. Said he didn't even like bulgur wheat. I arranged a mover for the rest. A man with tattoos of cutlery up his arm who didn't ask questions, just lifted. He loaded my books, the kettle, the pan that doesn't warp, my spice jars that aren't just salt. He looked at me like he could tell what kind of house I was coming from, and what kind I was going to. I left him the tall pantry cabinet door in the hall. I left the keypad on the floor. I left the Pringles lid on the table, day one, facing up. I took the hamster in a stack of pumpkin seeds in his little plastic house, with the bite marks on the door where he'd tested the edges. At my mom's that night, the hamster did a loop on his wheel, then another, then a third, like he was checking it still worked. I ate toast with butter that had not been assessed for taxation. I took my iron like a person doing something simple, not a ritual offering. I put a red sticker on the back of my phone case and another inside my wallet. They mean nothing to him. They mean when I see them, I eat what is mine and I don't explain it to anyone. At midnight, he texted me a photo of the kitchen door, rehung and the keypad reattached. Straight this time, the sheet protector rewritten with new hours. "Open," he wrote. Fixed it. I put my phone face down and poured cereal into a bowl from a box that wasn't locked in place. In the morning, he sent, "You'll miss me when you need milk." Like a curse. Like a dare. Like he couldn't imagine a world where I could walk to a corner shop and buy a pint. I sent him back a photo of a bottle on my mom's counter with a red sticker on the cap. He wrote, "Points don't work like that." And I laughed. Because that, at least all of us now know. This whole experience taught me so much about boundaries, self-worth, and what I truly deserve from a partner. It's hard to reconcile the person you loved with the person who systematically deprived you. Have you ever faced a situation where someone you cared about turned something essential, like food or money, into a weapon against you? How did you handle it? I really want to hear your stories and thoughts in the comments below.